Yo, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. This whole morning I've been scrambling through all my parts trying to find my fill neck that originally came off that half-size radiator. So I found it right here after going through pretty much all of my bin, and it's a lot shorter than I remembered, but it will definitely do the job. This right here was going to determine today's video. Now I have a brand new one ordered, and it's on its way. It'll be here next week, but that's just I don't know if I can wait that long. That'll work just fine like it did every other year when I didn't use that radiator in my 4-door. So when the new one comes in, it'll just be extra. Or maybe I can make a swirl tank with it. But what I want to do today is, now that we know that this fan works and works really strongly, what I'm going to do first is pretty much set this in place, make a little bracket for this guy to slide right into, and then 2 tabs coming out so we can bolt this fan down. And the bigger portion of this radiator is going to be at the bottom, the smaller one's going to be up top. And then once we get this mounted to the radiator, we are going to cut this bottom mount out right there. And I contemplated this whole morning. Me and my buddy Chewy were just chilling here for a couple hours, and I didn't want to cut it, but if I cut that, that means I have to finish the aluminum radiator, have that fixed into place, and also make a tab for it so it can bolt up to the frame. And then if that radiator end up working out, then we'll cut the other one out over there as well. But if we don't finish it, we'll at least have one, and then I'll just zip tie the rest of the stock radiator in place so we can use that for track this upcoming Saturday. So I had a piece of flat stock lying around, aluminum 1-inch, and what I did here was I just bent this right here into a half square, or whatever you want to call it, half square for the bottom side of the fan here. So ideally it'll just slide in, hook in like that, and then bolt it up on the top. Then this shouldn't go anywhere. Now I had to kind of quickly mock this up into the car because I didn't know where the inlet or the top port of the radiator was going to sit at, as far as lining it up to the upper coolant neck right here. But because this is angled and I have a bunch of tubings now, I'm probably just going to put it dead centered right here, since this would be too close to this guy, and just make the neck come out like this and then kind of 45 out. And then this fill neck would actually sit somewhere like right here, like so. But yeah, I'm gonna make these tabs right now from my big ass sheet right here, probably this little square, and then put holes on that, bolt it in, and then weld it in place. Then I'm gonna head to Home Depot to buy the 2-inch flat stock so we can weld up the sides, so that way we don't dink up the these rows. Also, the GT35R is dual ball bearing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these hoses right here. These are AN fittings, but I don't have the other end of it because that's how it came on the turbo. So all I'm going to do is shove a hose a little bit smaller than these threads, shove it in there and worm clamp it nice and tight. And then this one right here is going to go to the top of the radiator facing the turbo. So I'm going to put a barb right here, or a little tube fitting right here, and then the bottom one is going to go to the back side of the turbo, because the turbo is obviously, like I said, water cooled, and there's an inlet and an outlet whichever way. And definitely going to run those 2 little tubes here so we can put hoses to it, worm clamp it, and get water into the turbo. Now it's always important to double check your tabs or whatever it is you're welding, especially if it's a bracket, to make sure the fitment is right. So we got this one tacked in, that's all sturdy and in the correct spot. And then on the top part, I just tacked in right there, and that is in the correct spot. So now that we know the fan is fitted, I can fully weld it in. So I'm going to fully weld this up, and then I'm probably going to head to Home Depot to buy the 2-inch flat stock, and then I'm going to buy another tube that's about equivalent to the size of this Dash 8, and then get those suckers welded on the radiator as well. Measure out the holes on the tabs, drill them out. Here we got some 10 millimeters, and the original nut that was in it before was rusted out, and it was like between the 12 and the 13. I don't know what thread pitch it is, but I put some 10s back here, wired them down, about to clean it with acetone, and then I'm going to tack it in place so that way we have some nuts in the back, and make this a lot easier as far as putting on and taking off. Decided to do as much as I can before I head to Home Depot. So here we have the mount cut off, radiator mounted in place with the fan, and look how much more room we have in here, and look how much more low profile it is. Looks freaking awesome. So right now I'm just kind of like figuring out a place to mount the radiator up top so it can stop leaning forward and moving all over the place. And probably gonna make a tab to either this guy or this guy. So pretty much coming right here from the top, coming down about 45 degrees, and then bolted into one of these guys. And then once we get that all welded up, that's pretty much it as far as the radiator goes. And then we can take measurements and make the tubing to get to the upper radiator and the lower radiator hose. This sits a lot taller than this guy, so I'm gonna have to figure out some knickknacks to really get this angle right to go to this guy. And then I bought that long 1 foot straight tube because I'm going to be going off the top of the tubing that goes to the top portion of the radiator, and it's going to come up to where the cap is going to be at, so that way it's at the highest peak in the cooling system to properly bleed all the coolant out of here. And then when I do the up pipe and stuff, I'll have all the space to do it. So I haven't done much within the past hour and a half. Got caught watching YouTube in my room, and then I came out here, ate some chicken. You can see it right here on my roof. And then, you know, I kind of got back to work. So this is what I came up with. I welded the fill neck to a tube, and I used a hole saw to cut this sucker out, which then is going to sit on this pipe like so. Right, the car is slanted on the driveway, and it's kind of hard to really get the fill neck to, you know, sit at an upright angle. So I've went to my CRX to kind of get a quick look at something I can use as a reference to make sure that the fill neck is going to be, you know, what do you call it, leveled. And this right here is actually level to the floor in my CRX. So all I got to do is make sure that when I weld this guy on or mock it into place, that it is going to be leveled with the radius support, and then I shouldn't have any issue as far as bleeding goes. So I'm also going to turn this guy right here, this little bar fitting, towards the passenger side, because I'm going to be moving that guy over here somewhere. My charge pipe is going to come down this way, so I'm going to have the space right here to figure something out for that guy here, or figure out a different coolant reservoir so it doesn't look all hideous like that guy somewhere in this area. But we'll get to it when we get to it. That will do the job for next track, and we'll take care of that later. So right now I am going to use this section right here to weld on to the radiator like so, and then I gotta tilt this sucker up whichever direction I need to, or whichever angle I need to get this guy to be leveled with the bar. So let's get to cutting again. I want to at least get this guy welded on, and then put a hose on it, pressure it with water from the water hose, and see if it leaks anywhere to further determine if this radiator is going to keep making more progress to work in this car. If there is no leaks, then we'll dry it out and we'll do the bottom one. Well, it's 9 o'clock, and I'm sure all the stores are closed right now, so I'm gonna have to continue this tomorrow, but I want to give you guys a quick little update. I've been sitting here trying to figure out a different way to run this this tubing to the upper coolant housing, and all the straight direction that I was trying to do kind of kicked it out too far, where it would have to be a crazy, like, I don't know, like a weird shape hose to get you know, directed into this guy. So instead I just made a 40, you know, diagonal cut, and made like a 45 to direct this tube directly towards this housing, and that leaves me with a straight shot of a hose. And I believe this is what I'm going to go with, and I already drilled out the hole right there, a little too much, but that right there is going to get covered by this guy. So ideally it's going to sit like this, and then this is going to go on it right there, and that's how it should look. I'm going to weld this up right now, and tomorrow I'll go to Home Depot in the morning, grab the flat stock, and weld the bottom tube, this guy, and block up the sides, weld the ports for the lines for the turbo, and then we can wrap up this radiator. So I decided that you guys are going to be seeing this video on Wednesday, because I am going to do, obviously by now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday upload, because there's not much really to do with this car other than take it to the track, and I don't want to get too deep into all the turbo stuff for this car, because if I did it all now before track and then track is over, all that's left is really to install the turbo kit into the car. So I don't want to leave you guys with no content. Keeping it 3 videos this week will definitely have a lot more content when the turbo stuff comes. So yeah, I'm gonna get this welded up, clean up, and we'll continue this tomorrow. What's going on, you guys? It is 2 days now since the last clip, and we have some bad news. So after welding on this upper neck of the radiator, I wanted to pressurize the system a little bit, or add water into it to see if there are any leaks before I proceed. And we had a small little leak that was coming out from one of the fins right here at the bottom, and it was a slit which was really hard to weld. I kept burning through it. So what I ended up doing was I cut that row off, and then I welded underneath right there. Obviously I had to do this on the other end as well, so got that all welded up. Went back, reapplied water into the system, and I didn't see leaks that were like gushing out, so I added a little more pressure to it, and then you can kind of see right here where it bowed out. So I was like, alright, well, it's holding a little bit of pressure, because that wasn't supposed to happen. And then I don't know what happened after that. It started bursting out a little hole right there, and then it started bursting out right there. I cleared the system out, and then I JB welded it right there and right there, repressurized it, and after letting it sit like that, it burst out. So it's leaking there, it's leaking there, and then I found a new leak which came out of a little pinhole on the weld right here. Now I could weld that back up, but I can't weld the fins back up. So that is pretty much the conclusion of this radiator. We are not using it. As much as I wanted to, you know, it is what it is. So I have a different solution. This is my Skunk 2 radiator from my CRX when it was turbo once upon a time. And I've been saving this for the next build. But I'm going to have to use this one in the H22 CRX. It's got a spall fan. It's got Mishimoto radiator hoses, which I'm probably not even going to use on the H, because I really wanted to stay away from using all of my turbo related components from the last car on the H22 CRX, because I'm trying to keep the cost of it down and keep it budget. I'm really all about using whatever it is around the house and making it work into the car, and if it succeeds, then we're golden. If it doesn't, then if we have to buy the parts, we'll buy the parts. But obviously you guys have seen since the CRX build up, I've just been using everything around the house, the header, the intake, just miscellaneous stuff that I had lying around. With a little bit of time, had it all you know, reconstructed and fitted into the car. And in this case, because track is on Saturday, yes, I'm going to be at Sacramento Raceway for test and tune. I'm going to have to throw in the half-core radiator, just so that when we go turbo, I don't have to redrain the cooling system to fit a different radiator in it. Although I do have a plan for a different radiator setup later down the road, so we can get the Skunk 2 back out of the car. I'm just going to throw the Skunk 2 one in it right now. Now, in regards to the turbo manifold and the wastegate, I read a lot of the comments that were saying, you know, flip the wastegate around and just point up the hood, rather than, you know, making the 120 turn with tubings and stuff and then pointing it out the hood. But let me show you guys why you cannot flip the wastegate around on my manifold to point it out the hood. So my manifold sits like this, with the wastegate pointing downward, and then you guys were insisting, something that I've already tried, to just flip the wastegate up and point it out the hood. Let me show you guys why I can't do that. This flange right here, it does not sit or bolt into place with that flange there. Okay guys, I've already tried this. It does not work. And in regards to some of the people were saying that I should just cut this sucker off and move it over here. Now with the turbo flipped around, there's really not that much position that I can put, you know, this on this side without that interfering the exhaust housing of the turbo. And if I was to do this part in the front with the little penis on it, I'd have to buy material. Now one, this manifold is already cheap as is, so if I like kind of cut it up, it could mess up the integrity of it, even though it's already eBay. I believe that this right here is so thin that the weight of it could bend this right here over time, which then will cause this sucker to lean down and crack all the welds up top on the flange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these guys off, put a nice steel rod in place of these flimsy one, and weld them suckers on here nice and firm. That should hold up this manifold with the turbo, or at least I think it would. So that's pretty much the update for you guys. Sometimes in life you gotta take L's. You can't be afraid of failure. This one didn't work out for me, one of plenty, and you know, it's got to keep it moving forward. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fit this radiator into the car and get that all squared away so we can get this car prepped for track this weekend. And I am going to end the video here. I hope you guys at least enjoyed the fabrication part of this, although it was a no-go. Be sure to like this video if you guys did. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.